Ethan Grant was a man whose handsome looks were the talk of New York City. With his wavy chestnut hair, slate gray eyes, and a chiseled jawline, he could have easily been mistaken for a movie star. He was popular and had a wide circle of friends, but his charm couldn't pay the bills. Ethan's father, a respected army captain, had passed away, leaving him with a little more than a ceremonial sword, a small collection of books, and a legacy of honor, but no fortune. Ethan had dabbled in various professions. He tried his hand at being a tea connoisseur for a large import company and later attempted to sell fine wines for a vineyard, but success eluded him. Poor Ethan, it seemed, was a master of many trades, but a success at none. Despite his financial woes, Ethan was rich in love. He was deeply in love with Olivia Merton, the daughter of a decorated army colonel. Olivia loved him just as fiercely, but her father was a practical man. "You're a remarkable young man, Ethan," Colonel Merton had told him, his voice firm but not unkind. "But you have no money. My daughter cannot build a life on good looks and charm alone. Come back when you have $20,000 and you shall have my blessing." $20,000 might as well have been a million. Ethan barely had $20 to his name. A kind-hearted elderly aunt would occasionally slip him a $50 bill, but today his wallet held only a single $10 bill. He was, for all intents and purposes, broke. One of Ethan's closest friends was Julian Vance, a brilliant and sought-after artist. Julian was a master of portraiture, and his studio was a revolving door of the city's elite. His paintings were not just art, they were status symbols, and they came with a hefty price tag. He painted exclusively for the wealthy, and his fame grew with every brushstroke. One afternoon, Ethan visited Julian at his studio. Julian was intensely focused on a new piece. "What do you think of this, Ethan?" he asked, gesturing towards the canvas. "And what about my model?" Ethan's eyes followed Julian's gesture. The painting was a poignant depiction of an elderly beggar. In the corner of the grand studio, the model himself stood, a figure of sorrow and hardship. He was an old man, draped in tattered clothes, his face a roadmap of a difficult life. In one hand, he held out a worn hat, and in the other, he leaned on a simple wooden stick. "My model is extraordinary, isn't he?" Julian said with artistic pride. "Have you ever seen a more perfect picture of despair?" "The poor man," Ethan said, his voice filled with sympathy. "He looks so utterly defeated." "Of course," Julian replied. "A happy-looking beggar wouldn't sell. It's all about the emotion." "How much do you pay a model for something like this?" Ethan asked, his curiosity piqued. "Not much," Julian admitted. "A few dollars an hour." "And how much will you get for the finished painting?" Ethan pressed. "For this one," Julian said with a casual air, "I'll get $40,000. "You're a wealthy man," Ethan remarked. "Don't you think the model deserves a small share of that?" "Nonsense, nonsense," Julian scoffed. "Being a great painter is a skill, a talent. Anyone can stick out their hand and beg. Besides, many people dream of becoming a famous artist. No one dreams of being a beggar." "But you artists can be so heartless," Ethan countered. Julian just laughed. "I'm busy, my friend. Have a seat and let me work." Just then, a servant entered the room. "Sir, there's a gentleman here who wishes to commission a portrait. Shall I ask him to wait?" "I'll be right there," Julian said. To Ethan, he added, "Don't go anywhere. I'll be back in a moment." As Julian left, the old beggar sank onto a nearby chair to rest, his hat still held out as if by instinct. The sight of the old man, so frail and dejected, moved Ethan. He reached into his pocket and felt the crisp $10 bill, his last one. "He needs this more than I do," Ethan thought. He walked over to the old man and gently placed the $10 bill into the hat. The beggar's eyes widened in surprise. A slow smile spread across his weary face. "Thank you, sir," he said, his voice raspy. "Thank you so much." When Julian returned, Ethan said his goodbyes. He went straight to see Olivia and told her what he had done. "You gave away your last $10?" Olivia said, a mix of exasperation and affection in her voice. "That was incredibly foolish, Ethan. My father will never let me marry such a reckless man." She paused, then her expression softened. "But it was also incredibly kind, and that's why I love you." That evening, Ethan met Julian at their usual club. Julian was in high spirits. "I finished the painting," he announced, "and you'll never guess who was asking about you. My model was fascinated by you. He asked me all sorts of questions." "The poor old fellow," Ethan said. "I hope I can help him in some way. What did he want to know?" "He wanted to know everything about you," Julian said. "So I told him." "You told him everything?" "Everything," Julian confirmed. "About you, about Olivia, about her father's condition for your marriage. I told him you were in love but broke." "Julian!" Ethan exclaimed, his face flushing with anger. "How could you tell a complete stranger about my personal life?" "Don't be angry," Julian said, a grin playing on his lips. "You don't understand. The man I was painting wasn't just any beggar. That was Baron von Hessler, one of the wealthiest men in all of America." "Baron von Hessler?" Ethan was stunned. "The Baron dressed up as a beggar?" "The very same," Julian said. "But I gave him $10, Ethan stammered, the full weight of his foolishness crashing down on him. "How could I be so blind?" "You gave him $10?" Julian burst out laughing. "That's the most hilarious thing I've ever heard." Ethan walked home in a daze, his cheeks burning with embarrassment. He had given his last bit of money to a multimillionaire. When Colonel Merton heard this story, he would be laughed out of the family. He would never be allowed to marry Olivia. The next morning, a distinguished-looking man arrived at Ethan's apartment. "Mr. Grant?" he inquired politely. "Yes," Ethan said. "How can I help you?" "I've come on behalf of Baron von Hessler," the man said. "Baron von Hessler," Ethan repeated, his heart sinking. "Please tell the Baron that I am deeply sorry for my behavior yesterday. I didn't recognize him, and I feel I was quite rude." The visitor smiled warmly. "You were not rude to the Baron at all. In fact, he was quite touched. He asked me to give you this." He handed Ethan a sealed envelope. Ethan thanked him and looked at the elegant script on the front. "A wedding present for Ethan Grant and Olivia Merton from an old beggar." Inside the envelope was a check for $20,000.